Hello again. Let's start our weekly drawing session, this time with a still life. That's very interesting and beautiful. We have a pot, which is ceramic, white pot, which is somewhere here. We have the horizon, well, the table, which is right under the ceramic pot, and we have a tea brick which is sitting here. It's a metallic tea brick, and you have the handle and top of the brick, base, the porcelain cup here, which is we have a spoon, a metal spoon here, right there. On the porcelain we have that soft shadow, middle tone, which is dark on the porcelain, and then you have the cast shadow of the cup here, and then the table itself, and we have a shadow of the table down here, and the brick, which, as I said, it's metallic, a metallic one. Handle. The handle's actually, it's a leather handle. That's what I see. You'll see it at the end. And two little fruits here. It's basically to differentiate the different textures that we have here. We have a metallic object which is shiny, and we have a porcelain one which is also shiny but not at the extent of the metallic one, and the brick with the porcelain cup is here. Then you have a tablecloth, so we have drapery here, drapery, as I said, the metallic brick, tea brick, shadow of a handle, the top of the brick, top part where you can handle the handle, basically to open up the cup, and squinting my eyes I can see there is a lot of shadow of this part of, because the light comes from the left. Here we have, and then the cast. It's a pleasant subject this week. Let's leave a little bit the human figure and human body, and do a little bit more of a work on objects, really, here. And we have a metallic handle there, and wider, it's a bit wider on this side. Don't know what that is. It's an extension of the brick, which I don't know why that is there. Somebody will tell me. when you draw it this week. That's the spoon. And the shadow of the cup here. Soften the shadows here, and all the shadows, the metallic shadows, are softer wherever, all around the brick basically. And then you have a middle tone value, which is the background. That's willow charcoal, by the way. Dark all around here. Some drapery here. It's soft actually, it's not that. What's happening? Sometimes you get this with the willow charcoal. And the leather, it's a bit closer here, closer there. The handle, basically, that's the handle of the brick. And its handle is here. It's where it connects with the rest of the brick. And shadow, right hand side of shadow of the brick. Okay. The drapery, which is on the background, is definitely darker than the drapery here and the table itself. So here we are. Dark everywhere, dark here. And I'm planning to come along with a chamois or just pure just towel, paper towel, and fix this. Give it a very soft texture to it, because it's not as I've done almost cross hatching there, but yes, we don't need to do that. It will, with the paper towel, that will have a different texture, which needs to be in a different texture, not that dark one. And reflected light, and then dark shadow here. That's the cast shadow of the cup, porcelain cup. Here we have it. Okay. This is where the brick, that area of the brick is actually moving, it's rounded. So to get that impression of roundness, you have to be very, very careful. That's where the trick is, here. This is what I'm doing here is actually a reflection of the porcelain back to the metallic texture, if I can say that, metallic texture. Yes, I guess I can say that. Especially metal, but everything on metal, well, all the surrounding subjects, which is basically, we have two fruits here, which is difficult to identify what type of fruits, but they look like dry fruits. And the relatively light, well, it's not white, but it's beige porcelain is reflected back onto the metallic brick. And you have a soft tone. Yeah, we have it. Okay. And then a dark shadow on the drapery. With your fingers, soften all this. Metallic the reflection on metal. Reflection of the drapery here. And the drapery of this the lightness of drapery here. It's much lighter than, a lot lighter than the tablecloth here. And you have a shadow on this one. That drapery does have a shadow. Darker tone here as well. And let's create a little bit of drapery. Middle tones and dark tones and mid tones everywhere. Keep an eye on that, because the top of the porcelain cup, that line here, it's not horizontal, it's bended outwards a little bit like this. So keep an eye on that. Not a horizontal line, okay? Because we are above the object, so we can see inside the porcelain. And then middle tone here. A shadow there. Middle tone here. That is the drapery of a tablecloth, which does have a little bit of a darker tone than the white drapery here. Almost white anyway. Okay, now I'm gonna take a paper towel, any paper towel. I'm choosing this, which I'm actually working with the cleaning my brushes here. Just give it a soft tonal value, because it is beige and it's like that. Beige in between the handle of the teapot. We have that beige, which is the background again. Beige here. and soften all this texture that I've done previously. I'm softening all the texture with these. So our attention will be on the objects and not on the background. But then some of that dust can be used on the top, on the cup of the teapot up here, there, and a softer tone here on the metal part of on the metal basically, which is the texture, a very soft texture, very fine soft texture. And a little bit of texture down here, which is the tablecloth. And tablecloth again, it's kind of beige down here. Okay. And now with a brush, any brush. I mean, if you don't have a brush, you can use your finger, but I mean, I can do it with my fingers. Actually, it's quite accurate. But I'm trying to avoid the oil on the fingers. Fingers do have natural skin oil. So if you put it a lot on the paper, the paper will not take all the darks that you're going to put later on, or reject them, because it will be filled with the skin oil from your fingers basically. And that beautiful elegant form here. Softer tone, a dark tone too here. And the porcelain itself here. Here we have the tablecloth. Okay. Okay. Now let's get I've just created some charcoal dust here. And let's use that to define the the darkest shadows here. There. And then sit. Shadow of the handle, and then a dark tonal value here on the neck, and dark tone on the handle itself, and the handle itself here, top, a handle of the lid. Again, we're standing above so we can see the top of the lid here. A handle, just to define it a little bit. and a little bit of putty rubber and the lid itself to create the shape of the lid here. That's the lid here, and some reflected lights. That's a reflection of the top of the lid. There's another darker tone here. There. And again, this line here, which is the top, is not horizontal. It's slightly bended downwards. Keep that line bended downwards to create the top of the lid. Here we are. And the way we pour the tea or the water, hot water. And that is the base where it's been attached to the body, to the metal body. And there's a reflected light which reflects from the porcelain down here on the top of the upper lid, and it takes the shape of the upper lid, so it's the same, it's parallel to that line. And the porcelain here, highlighted here, right here. That's the lip, if I can say that, lip of the porcelain cup. Yes, cup. I think it's called cup. And then you have drapery, the reflection of the cup onto the tablecloth. And the base of the porcelain cup is here. Then we have another base, which is the cup, the base of the cup. And this is the turn of the porcelain right to the base. So this is basically the form of the porcelain, which is oval. That's the base, which is dark. And the teaspoon, which is metal. The only thing that you can have and make the teaspoon visible is actually almost transparent, because it's grey, same color as the background. So I think with a putty rubber you can give it an impact here, just lighten up those areas here. And that's the cup itself. Lip of the cup, tip of the cup there, and have that metal bit here, spoon, and soften all these darker middle tones that I've done earlier on, because we're talking about a beige color porcelain, with quite light. And shake the putty rubber on this with this sharp edge and come and reinvent that line here. The tip of the cup or the lip of the cup. There. Okay, and then you have the drapery here. You can work it with your putty rubber. Softy here to create that reflected lights here. Darker tone of the fruit and some reflected lights on the metal pot. That's the main light area. That's the main light area where the light reflects back. And the end of the pot on that side. I need to end it here as well. I know that the background is grey, but I'm giving it a lighter tone because it's to differentiate the object, which is basically the teapot, from the background, which is grey. So how do you do that? You pretty much on that area here they have the same tonal value, but here the object is much darker than the background. And then you have the handle here. Leather handle. And here we have there is something behind that. It's a very rounded object, which I just cannot make sense of it, but I don't know what it is, but there is something behind that pot. Anyway, you can either leave it, you can either do it or ignore it. And there. Now, the handle is wide. The leather handle is wide. So it's a bit wider here. There. That's how you create the width of the handle. And there. A bit wider. Some lighter tone, a bit of a lighter handle, another handle. No, that's where you hold the cup, and a lighter tone around the leather handle there. Getting rid of, confusing those handles everywhere. Handles, okay. You know where I'm going with this. Basically, which handle I'm talking about at any point. A darker tone here. And a softer dark tone here. and that creates the impression of the form here that we have, which is smooth and rounded. Okay, now let's get back to the drawing after a little break, coffee break. And let's put some sfumato. Sfumato is basically, it's a technique called in Italian, which basically means soft. Sfumato is smoky. Well, the translation is smoky background, basically soft background. Soft background, and especially where the handle of the teapot or the background is close to the handle here, and a soft turn, not dark lines, soft lines, like this one here, for instance. That's quite harsh, so I'm just getting rid of it. And that's the top of the cup. The cup is here, and that light is a bit less dark. Then you have the handle here. That's reflected light here, which is correct, where it needs to be. This is the light where the light, that's reflection from the main light. Those lines are a bit too dark for me, so get rid of them with your finger and brush. But as I said, if you do not have brush, finger work can be done. It's not necessary with brush only. And here we have some reflected light, which is basically these two little fruits, dry fruits that I have here. It's basically to fill up that area, which if they were not there, then it will be a white space needing a little bit of attention. So I guess the artist or the photographer, because photography, needed to do that, to put these two little dots here. And you have some core shadow on those two dry fruits. I don't know what they are. You probably would know. And that's the drapery. I don't know the name of the fruit. And then you have here the reflected light on the neck of the teacup. I think with a little bit of stump that will help. Use a bit of stump here, and then lift up some dark areas. Tip of the teapot, and the leather handle, and the background a bit lighter. Soften all these dark lines or dark patches here, a bit lighter. Actually, if you squint your eyes, you will see that the darks are concentrated down here, where the background, the drapery of the background meets the table here. And then you have where the cup is here, and the teaspoon. Background. The cup needs to be a little bit more symmetrical than that, which means I can make it a little bit wider here, there. and that suits it better. And there is a stamp here, there's something drawn on these cups, which is normally always basically a flower. We can see it, it's a red flower here. I mean, you don't have to do it, but I'm just being a little bit too detailed here. Teaspoon. Soft shadow, because we're talking about porcelain, and a little shadow of the tip of the lip, if I don't know if I can say that, of the porcelain here. So a little bit, that shadow comes down, and as it moves downwards, it's softer and softer and softer and softer and softer here. Now the light is concentrated here because that is reflection of the drapery onto the porcelain. There. And also make that neck there a little bit wider there. Good. And some putty rubber. With a putty rubber I can make it a little bit sharper there. And sharper here, and a little bit lighter, that's the porcelain, and some texture here, especially where the beige tablecloth comes down here, which becomes basically where the table meets the lower part of the, well, the edge of the table. Edge of the table. A bit lighter here. That is drapery, folds here and there. Softer tonal value. Careful with those edges, dark edges, not that much, not that dark, basically. And then some reflected light here, reflected light here, and also a little bit reflected light on the neck, which is basically from the beige tablecloth, and here as well. I think I've gone too bright there, but I like it. In the sense that, yes, it's a bit bright, but it's also, it creates the impression of metal. So that's, as long as it serves the purpose that basically, the purpose to show that it's metal. So if it serves that purpose, then you can leave it. And then that dark fades away as I'm going towards the right. Part of the metal object. Then you have a light which reflects from the cup and a little bit widen the width of the cup, basically, of the teapot cup. And a little bit lighter and lighter there. Okay, well, that looks like a continuation. That line looks like a continuation of that drapery, so, which it is on the original image, but I shouldn't do that, and don't do it. Change it, because it looks like a line, and it works in the picture, but it doesn't work on the drawing. So just change it there. I can see in the picture it works because it's all extremely detailed, everything there. But here it's a drawing, it's not a picture. So adjust what, I think it doesn't work on me here, so I'll make it a little bit more of like a zigzag. So so I'm changing that line there, zigzag. So we know that it's not a basically continuation of that line. And some, not a lot, some sharp edges on the rounded fruits, right, to create the impression of spherical object. This one is a little bit bigger than the right one, but doesn't really matter. You don't have to do it either bigger or smaller, just do it whatever it feels like for you. And then you have the dry wood, and there is no leaf on that. It just creates that continuation of the fruits which has been picked by the tree here. And then you have that darker tone, beige, darker. This is darker, I mean the background is darker than the beige of the tablecloth, but still it's darker than this drapery here. And a little bit of highlight here. And a little bit of darker tonal value with my charcoal, which is the end of the drapery but and the beginning of porcelain. And cast shadow of the porcelain here on the tablecloth. Now, this interesting concept, because where the porcelain ends, the tonal value of that area here where I am now, it's pretty much as dark as the cast shadow. Very interesting, because the object itself appears to be darker than the cast shadow right here, but it's not, because the cast shadow is much darker. You'll see it in the picture. But on this particular area where the cast shadow becomes, it's not the cast, well, the cast shadow of the object is actually appears to be lighter here, right here, than the object itself. And the object is beige, so it cannot be the object darker than the cast shadow, but appears to be, because it's merging the shadow of the object, of its body, of the object, is becoming, in this particular area, darker than the cast shadow. Interesting. But these are the illusions, the reflected lights that we were talking about many times on studio lessons, classes. So you have those concepts which are interchangeable. Every now and then you have those highlights, and so those darks merging with each other. So on particular areas you will see that these concepts they don't follow the rules. The shadow of the object should never be darker than the cast shadow. But again, every now and then you have spots which they do merge, and you don't. It's basically it's the way it is. It's the way that they appear to be, the objects. Here it's again this shadow of the object here, which is, or this part of the object is, again, looks darker than the background. So keep those concepts observe what's going on. Don't just automatically think that we're dealing with a lighter object, and then therefore it's always brighter than the tablecloth, but it's not in this case, especially when it's lit by one light source and a strong light source. If we had the reflected light coming, or it was a daylight, I mean that's not a daylight here, but if it was daylight, then you will have lights from all angles, so then probably this phenomenon will not happen, or it might happen. It depends. All depends on the light source, how strong it is, how dark it appears to be. Now here we have drapery again, folds, different folds, not faults, folds. And this cast shadow is really dark here, although you might say, well, it's a white drapery, so how can it create such a dark shadow? But it does. Again, it depends on the light. If the light source is too intense, then you have those things coming up. So it's all about observation. Never leave it to assumption. Always see what's going on the ground. Yes, not what we think it is, but what it actually is. And then you have this drapery, which is beautiful, and I need to create because that's a different material, it's different texture more than material. I need to make it look like a different texture, so use the darks in a different way, like this, more geometrical. Work with the putty rubber in a way which will create a different texture from this, and from the fruits, dry fruits basically. So a different texture like this, there. See, that creates a different texture by using the putty rubber in a specific, very deliberate way to create those impressions of different material, different texture, different objects, softer, harder. I mean, that's harder. This is even harder, the metal. So it's all about observing and looking very carefully what you're dealing with. I don't want to sound it dangerous, but you know what I mean. It's not dangerous, it's just observation skills, which all artists should have it. You have to be in high alert all the time about how you're applying pressure, what pressure you're applying, how much pressure you're applying, and check it constantly. Highlight on the neck. See, instead of using lines, I'm using putty rubber, and those lines are creating a specific look, a specific reflection on the metal object here. If I drop that white here, that will define the handle. Now, how to create that leather handle? That is very difficult. I mean, I probably, I cannot guarantee, but I probably will agree with the sense that, I mean, the notion that, look, I will need a lot of time to create that impression of leather texture, but it will take so much time. I think this is good enough. It gives an impression of a thick handle. So every now and then some highlights to, again, I'm trying to give a different texture here, and very dark cast shadow. And look what's going on here. That cast shadow, it takes the form and the shape of the object which is casting the shadow onto here, and then you have that which is being reflected all along to here up to the other handle here, which is, I mean, let me zoom in. By the looks of it, it's another metallic tap. Now here is dark because I'm still, it's where the cast shadow is being casted up above the tap here. And then if you go on the right, this creates a cast shadow on the base itself where it's standing. Again, it's all about the game of observation. Observation, not horizontal, rounded that line. Round, oh, again, I've done the same style. So rounded top here, there. And thicker, creates a nice 3D effect. Playing with notions here, so create that illusion of depth. Then you have that handle, which is basically right here. You create by highlighting that dark there. I'm just showing to the viewer where that top of the teapot ends, and also here dark, and then here a little bit, and then not as dark here. But where the reflected light is, right there, I'm actually creating that shadow here just to emphasize the reflected light here. Again, it's what I'm seeing here. I'm not inventing it, but I'm seeing it and reflecting on it and just doing it and just, you know, copying it. But copying doesn't mean mindless copying. It means understanding what you're copying, what you're observing, what you're doing, what it serves a purpose. It's not just copying for the sake of it. And then those shadows are softer, and it gives a certain look. You can do a cross hatching, or you can do it like this. Again, I'm using brush, but don't worry, please, you can use whatever you feel like. Fingers, you can use the earbuds if you like, if you have them. So please, this Monday at Michelle's house, keep those materials with you, and I will text you to bring brushes, or one can have a brush, and then you can use it, you can share it in between yourselves there. And then at Michelle's house, and softer tonal values there, softer tonal values. Okay, and then what else can we do there? Oh yes, soften the porcelain, a little bit the shadows here. So there's a reflected light here, down here, and that's the reflected light from the tablecloth back to the object again. And right here, another phenomenon is happening. That line which separates the main body from the base is actually merging beautifully with the base. There. And here as well. And this is the end of, not the session, sorry, that's the end of the drapery. which goes right across and beyond and at the back of the porcelain here. It's funny because the porcelain seems to be cracked here, and that's a nice, very small detail. You don't have to do it, but it appears to be cracked here. It's funny. Look good. It's attractive to have that imperfections. Basically, it's beautiful. It's just small details which you don't have to do it, but if you observe, you would have seen it. Observation, you would have seen that, and you probably did. Spoon itself here, and reflected highlight on the body of the spoon there. It's a lot darker there, but I like it this way. Anyway, okay, little break, and we'll carry on again. Okay, so let's go back to the folds that we've got here. A little bit lighter, but not too light, because we are very close to the brick, the metal brick, and so we have some shadow from the brick, some reflected light and shadow of the brick onto the fold. Then you have some reflected light of the brick and some reflected light here from the porcelain, together with those highlights, with those little imperfections here of the light bowl. And sorry about the cat. Cat is just waking up. And here we have it. Okay, and some highlight here as we're dealing with a beige color. And then with a brush, as I said, you can do it with your fingers, but brush will be a lot better. I'll leave this dust, charcoal dust here, and then apply these darks fearlessly here, because here is where the table is turning vertically, and then darks here, those darks we have all around here, vertical, which obviously by doing that you can also suggest folds here, and it has to be consistent because it's a straight line. It's not really straight here on me, and so let's straighten that up, and that will have to fold to the same line, horizontal line. Darks, loads of darks around here, and that's a different texture, it's a different drapery, different material. And God, I should work at a later hour because the cat's still awake. It's not too late here. Oh, well, the time is 10:30 here. That's why I always work late at night, because there's no noises. But today I was thinking the cat is sleeping, and then she just woke up. There you have it. And then much darker tonal values here, softer tone about the porcelain here, and get those with my fingers, which will work almost as good as the putty rubber, soft on those edges here, and also bring that highlight there of the cup, and just make some noise here in the background, except the animal noise. I'm talking about the visual noise here, not audio noise. That creates some drapery. Well, actually very soft drapery, but it just some twists and turns, so it's not completely flat middle tone, so create a bit of visual noise. And here as well, straight line, a brick, metal kettle, and I don't know where I found that word brick. It's metal kettle, tea kettle, and those darks all around there. So again, it looks like, because it is a drapery, it's not wool, it's not a very soft middle tone, it's a middle tone which is with some resemblance of drapery, and then it's good to have it as well. And this is much darker than what I've done here, but the brush doesn't give me that option, so I'll have to do it with my charcoal. I'm choosing, well, it's actually not willow charcoal, but it's charcoal still. Just want those darks to be a little bit darker, but you can use willow charcoal. Actually, willow charcoal is better, but because I'm working horizontally here, I think this squarish charcoal will be more impressive, will give you more impressive darks. Darker darks, very dark darks here. Yes, and this is a manufactured charcoal. It's not willow charcoal. Just to give that an edge there. And then going back to some willow charcoal now, because that goes quite dark, and I was not too happy with it. It's very dark. Away with the cup, the teacup, and going some dark tonal values here, and some stump. Okay, found the stump. So those darks that I've done with the manufactured willow, I can spread them. See? There. So if needed, you can use the stump to highlight the darks. And a little bit of willow charcoal, proper willow charcoal now. Going back to our willow charcoal. Yes, I can control it better, this one. There. And some there, soft on that, those dark highlights. I think it's good. That porcelain, I don't really like it, but so why I don't like it is because it doesn't actually give the impression of porcelain, but so it's not really happy with it. It's not bad, but it's not exactly porcelain. So I wanted to differentiate, to give that texture of the material that is being built on, or the building material. So a bit of highlights here on these little fruits, dry fruits here, and finally using my willow charcoal, being a bit darker, and using your fingers to adjust those darks, create folds. There. Anyway, it's a dark shadow. That's what's meant to be there. And coming back and readjusting and reshaping and highlighting the lines here, which are separating the metal boiler, tea boiler, you know what I mean. You will correct me with this if it's a boiler or if it's a, well, it's a tea jug. Yes, tea maker, metal tea maker. And coming with those lines, and then I'm actually artificially pumping up those darks to make the object a little bit more accurate, but also it's beautiful in the sense that it's making it a bit more cartoonish, but I'm actually trying to work with the darks that I see there in the picture. So to emulate them, to make them even darker. But it's not really needed. It's just a matter of taste. How you would like your drawing to appear. More edgy, more cartoonish. And to be honest, the purpose is served. We can see what it is. That the darks are dark, as dark as it can get. We can see the objects, what they are, roughly. Drapery is there, and different textures. Not a lot, but some different textures. And then with the putty rubber, those darks are actually the fold which comes here and continues to go down here. So you can, those folds you can now το έκανα. Έλα να δεις, είναι καλό να μην δούλεψω κι άλλο. Δεν είναι άσχημο. Τι σπίρτη βόκρη, ναι, είναι ψυχή μου, ναι. Είναι άσχημο. Better than metal jug, no? Metal tea maker. Ο σπίρτ. Oh, it's kettle. Είδες, δεν ξέρω τι λέω.